My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is P.O.C. I documented this pattern. The people of the state at this facilitating venue are subject to federal prison. This is a pattern that I'm documenting at what is 1458 North Euclid Avenue. I documented this before, showing you the entity targeting me, doing so while stalking on the sidewalk, crossing paths, stalking in plain view, conspicuous surveillance, while the entity flies above my head at the venue where the fake sun is over me, at the intersection of 6th Street and Euclid Avenue, where you also know the fake sun is over me in the evening. And as a matter of fact, This is where the fake sun is over me yesterday evening at this 10 freeway bridge, where the entity was stalking by helicopter, specifically exposing to you, and you're witnessing how pathetic this entity is, especially while they don't have anywhere to go, they don't have any business, they're all stalking. 8ERE 351, 6LUV 662, 8SBK 681, 1938, 4 Apple 1, 8KVR, it's like 805 or 505. And these are all demons. You see how they're along the street? They're all demons. And they molest with impossible light while they're driving by under the fake sun. 41710 Larry 3. This population is being subject to martial law. They are going to compensate me. These brokies are going to compensate me. And the people of the state, that is the corporate entity, which is not double dipping. The corporations are the people of the state. The broke down population are the people of the state. The demons of the facilitating venues, they're all going to compensate while they're sharing in terrorism. And this is a federal prosecution. I will attach that video where I'm showing you the entity engaging when it's stalking me while I'm at 1458 North Euclid Avenue. And the entity has the fake sun over me. And I'll remind you about the entity having the fake sun over me in the evening, speaking to the crime scene where you are residing at a facilitating venue, surveilling an American citizen, targeting them in furtherance of murder, engaged in public corruption, while you are engaging in what is stalking with the government that flies over my head, targets me, stalking me, and that's what you are doing. You are stalking at 1458 North Euclid Avenue while the fake sun is over me and the military stalking me by planes, like I'm documenting on an ongoing basis. This is P.O.C. They're going to prison. All right? And I just want to be clear. The entity's engaging in what is stalking as everybody over here. It's not just 1458. This is speaking to the crime scene. This is blowing the whistle on everyone that is subject to a raid in federal prison. This is P.O.C. This is why they won't be on the roads and the highways. They are terrorists. And this is the necessity of the prosecution of the entire state of California. It is currently 8:28 a.m. where demons are stalking. Okay? The entities engage in this pattern of conduct while they are monitoring. That's what the demons that are stalking you as a population, they're monitoring spirits that are monitoring you. 7YSA391. Terrorism on the roads and the highways using vehicles as a threat to national security. They commit murders. And then they also use the insurance industry to defraud it and to profit off of it. Sacrifices that they commit. 85875 Bob 2. 20479 Henry 4. This is psychopathic pacing. 9 Uncle Victor Yolanda 835. 4 Henry George Jerry 836. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:29 a.m. All right, you're looking at Omnitrans stalking, license 9KTD328, committing the same federal offense, less the helicopter activity, which is the difference between the defendant that I'm documenting, the white couple, gang stalking with the entity stalking me by helicopter at this exact same location yesterday evening under a fake sun. And that's where you are going to prison. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct while they are stalking with the U.S. military that flies over my head right here, where 9WLB313 is stalking with the minor child. This is the entity that's going to be subject to the pattern of conduct. You're talking about what is massive facilitation. They are maintaining surveillance in the state of California on the roads and the highways. And this is the entity that is doing so while all those people on the freeway that are engaging in criminal monitoring are conspiring against an American citizen to murder them while they're on the highways. That is not a constitutionally protected right within what is any sort of freedom of speech whatsoever. This is the government that's engaged in that. And the government flew over my head by helicopter right here at what is Vantage Property Management, who I will federally prosecute. Omnitrans that you see gang stalking in this video at what is 8:37 a.m. I am aboard that gang stalking venue on the roads and the highways, engaging in federal stalking, conspiring against me and my life for years as I've been documenting it, and I'm aboard Omnitrans while this fake sun is in the middle of the afternoon during the 3 p.m. hour, as a matter of fact, and I'm crossing paths with professional property management. The same facilitating venue that has now a different name, a different corporate actor, in other words, same entity, and I will federally prosecute you, period. It's not changing because the company name is different. The entities engaged in this and the fake sun is over me after 3 p.m. where you're seeing Omnitrans gang stalking, crossing path, stalking me in the morning, using the roads on the roads and the highways with the entity, which is at this location yesterday afternoon, down the street from where I'm documenting the entity stalking me, flying over my head, where the people of the state are exposing each other. 46863 Thomas 1 is a lesbian. That's a demon-possessed psychopath. She's a co-conspirator of murder, and she's driving on the street, exploiting what are the rights in the Constitution in furtherance of murdering a person that she is stalking. And it is proven through the unnatural environment where she is doing so. And that is the analysis for the entire population. The entities engaged in this and keeping this fake sun over me while I'm coming from Upland Public Library yesterday evening after 5 p.m. where the sun would not be let alone not only over the same person, but over the same location, as I'm showing a population is stalking. The population that is stalking is the co-conspirator of murder, the U.S. government's pattern of conduct, the prosecution, the basis of martial law for an entire population, which shall compensate the targeted individual. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 8:38 a.m. The license plate that I documented in that video, and everyone else, I just want to be clear, these are idiots. And they think if you get me in between two venues, then it's not. No. Vantage Property is being prosecuted. 1544 North Euclid Avenue is being federally prosecuted. This is my location. The corrupt businesses such as psychopaths maintaining a veterinary hospital, Inland Valley Specialists, are all being federally prosecuted with regard to relevant positioning. It's exposing the entire state engaging in criminal monitoring, which the government engages in to commit organized murder and theft, which the entity perjured my character while stalking in this absurdly and obvious manner. This is the P.O.C. It's 8:39 a.m. This is P.O.C. The entity is maintaining ongoing aerial surveillance, and this is what you're seeing here. Is what the entity is doing while I'm inside of the Upland Public Library, publishing evidence, maintaining documentation. The entity is flying over, stalking, and amplifying plane and helicopter activity. Who's going to be federally prosecuted for it? It's Bill Velto. Okay? 24-hour surveillance is underway in the city of Upland while I'm subject to the pattern of conduct under a fake sun, where the serial stalker, this one right over here, the white male, who's engaged in what is ongoing conspicuous surveillance with disregard for the fact that he's going to be federally prosecuted. He's stalking with the entity, doing so by helicopter, doing so he's in the library in the middle of the afternoon under this same fake sun that's still here. It's 9:43 a.m. where this entity is engaged in what is federal stalking on the venue of the internet. Stalking, harassing, and it's also stalking and harassment, psychological torture while I'm inside of this building. And the entity is amplifying the sound of planes and helicopters. This is what is massive surveillance with the people of the state. What stalker represents, he's wearing via communication devices in furtherance of murder, and he's a vagina monitor. He's a psychopath, and he's a demon engaged in stalking around me, which is what all of the employees and the people of the state that go inside of this crime scene, which is the Upland Public Library. This is the city of Upland. That's engaged in surveillance. The entity is monitoring the evidence that I am currently publishing on the venue of the internet, where there is no basis under the law for the government to maintain criminal surveillance. This stalking me in Upland at the 10 freeway yesterday after 5 p.m. This is the same street that I'm off of Euclid Avenue. This is the entity that's engaged in that while they're stalking in the parking lot. The Upland City Hall is a corrupt government that's going to be defunded. Everyone that works for the Upland City Hall, in other words. San Bernardino County Fire, where I'm capturing video in the middle of the afternoon, COLLIN SHEEHY, who will not be remaining employed. These are terrorists that are being exposed while the entity is monitoring my evidence. And while they're monitoring on my devices, I publish what is also legally relevant evidence to prosecute them for terrorism, conspiring my murder as a corrupt entity that, remember, perjured my character, that is engaged in kidnapping like what they did on July 13, 2026, which is why Michael Lowe is going to federal prison, that has engaged in what is defaming my character. You are being federally prosecuted as a state. These are the psychopathic that engage in stalking you under a fake sun. They are engaged in surveilling you. The entity's engaging what is stalking by helicopter, stalking by aircrafts all around, and that's what they're doing while I'm inside. And you're looking at the faces of Alan and Kiki and Alyssa and Alicia and Sheena and Joy, the demons that I'm describing to you, the psychopaths that are pacing with the people of the state who are monitoring my vagina, engaging in that same ongoing obsessive endeavor, violating my privacy while monitoring my devices, violating my privacy while monitoring my vagina, okay, in the bathroom, where the stalkers, like the people of the state, maintain position by going into the male restroom, where creatures are monitoring genitalia, where creatures are under a fake sun that's still here after 7 p.m. as I walk out of these doors. This is the P.O.C. Remember what is also being exposed. Marcelo Blanco is being federally prosecuted. Daniel Muncie, San Bernardino County Fire, that's a terrorist. Colin Sheehy has served to prosecute him, and the entity that's gang stalking in Ontario has served to prosecute the demons in the city of Upland. You are being federally prosecuted for terrorism. You are losing your job as a terrorist. You have no immunity under the law. And the corporate entities, you are hereby given notice while you are being federally prosecuted. You do not have a defense. This is the P.O.C. The entities engage in this while they are monitoring on my device. This is the basis for recovery for psychological torture as well. The population is monitoring on the roads and the highways. That is stalking by a population, a mentally ill one. The creatures that are engaging in this stalking, and this is what they've engaged in with regard to, you hear the competition with my voice? That's demonic. Okay, these are demons that are stalking in this obvious manner. That's relevant to them being committed. But this, remember, this is the entity that engages in this conduct, and this is what they plan. This is what Jason Isaac Fields' lesbian wife, who is obsessed with my vagina, who sleeps with girls and boys, sleeps with children, who is a serial killer, who was targeting me in concert with Tracy Banks and Jason Fields. This is the entity that engaged in what is trying to gang stalk you, and that's supposed to get you a conservatorship over my property. I hope you're prepared to go to prison, because the ignoramuses of San Bernardino County Fire are putting you there. You're going to be committed, and that's where you will expire. This is the P.O.C. San Bernardino County Fire engaging in criminal summoning after 5 p.m., after 6 p.m. as I walk out of the same venue. That video will also be attached. The San Bernardino County Fire Department is engaged in surveillance, not firefighting, and for that, they are going to be removed from position. Every single last one of them will be unemployed, and it will be for the basis of what is terrorism. While they're facilitating and conspiring murder, and they're mentally ill, stalking with lights and sirens, instead of actually having an emergency. They're engaged in criminal activity, and they monitor my vagina. That is an unprecedented basis to remove and defund gang stalkers. Okay, that's the P.O.C. The entities engaged in this while they are monitoring evidence online, and this is no basis to receive any power of attorney. And this is necessitating also state and federal laws. Well, you will not abuse the Baker Act, which is what the U.S. government that's maintaining surveillance in these United States. This is the P.O.C. I want you to be clear. All of you irrelevant jezzies who are obsessed with my vagina, obsessed with the way that I walk and flow and am me, you will never be me. And you are also not me, because you're going to prison while I'm going to places that you can't even spell. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 9:48 a.m. Okay, this is identifying a stalker. More importantly, for your information, all of you witnesses, a demon. That is, by the way, operation of a communication device. This is all engineer light. This is the P.O.C. This is stalking in the environment on behalf of the government and entity. And this is impossible light activity. Let's take a look. Do you see this here? Okay, this is my hand appearing in front of me in engineered light. This is not sunlight. And it's not the same product of what would supposed to be sunlight that you see them all sitting in stalking. Sunlight that is, again, up on the second floor, and it moves down, and at the end of the day it's up on the second floor again, even up on the second floor where the elevator is. This is impossible light activity, and this is impossible light activity. In fact, it's demonic. And this is speaking to what is targeting, that you're identifying through the environment, not the facial expression of the demon. Okay, the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and you're being federally prosecuted for stalking. This is absolutely impossible light activity, and even so, sunlight's not coming from the sun and then ricocheting on the inside of a building off of a mirror and then shooting off on me. However you would try to rationalize it, it is impossible. Okay, it is demonic. It's the evidence of targeting by who? The same entity that you see stalk me by planes and helicopters that are demons. They're engaged in witchcraft. They are all under spell work. They're engaged in, that's relevant context. This is, how is this dealt with in federal court? Mental illness. The behavioral health concerns of the entity engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring, which is evidence, even in their silence, in that environment where you are being prosecuted, you don't have a defense. All right, and the target individual is also very clearly identified. The one that's being stalked with helicopters and planes, the one that's being falsely accused, the one who's being confined and stolen from, the one who is being targeted by an entity that would assert that the target individual is the problem. That's the one that's gang stalking versus the targeted individual. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is federal prison for Adam Tuckerman. This is the pattern of conduct by the entity that's engaged in what is stalking in the path. Carissa is very much obsessed. Okay, this is obsession. This is the pattern of conduct. Carissa is engaging what is working. This is systematic facilitation. While these are demons pacing up and down the stairs, this is where the fake sun is over me inside of this venue, and I'll show you that as well. With regard to witnessing the mental illness of the demons that are gang stalking inside of a building, this is psychopathic. These are creatures that are engaging in criminal activity, and they are masquerading as humans. Under the law, this is the people of the state that are engaging in criminal surveillance with the U.S. government, the U.S. military, the city of Upland, the state of California. P.O.C. in furtherance of murder. It's 10:34 a.m. Alrighty, and the I have a question, can you come help me is a means of crossing path. And where are they crossing path? Under the fake sun that's still here after 6 p.m. Okay, after 7 p.m. These are demons that are stalking, and as I move that door closure, those are demons that are mentally ill, that are engaging what is stalking with noise while you are stalking under the fake sun. That fake sun is evidence of stalking and mental illness. This is diagnosis by prosecution. And then you have the inexplicable light that I just showed you here in the corner. You're not talking about anything, and because you're stalking in this manner, because you're seeking to engage in targeting someone by trying and failing at making it look like you're doing something else, this is the very evidence that's going to have them committed. They are the people of the state, the same demons that are stalking under the fake moon with the entity that's stalking by helicopter. This is how that population shares in that psychopathic endeavor. This is the P.O.C. The employees are the ones stalking. They are doing so with minors pacing in and out of the Brody room. They're doing so with employees that pace in and out as gang stalking tutors. Okay? They're doing so as employees that are pacing inside of the venue. Pacing is criminal. It's pursuant to stalking. Whether you're skipping, skateboarding, bike riding, roller skating. Okay, the entity is engaging what is stalking on behalf of the government that maintains no warrant or probable cause to keep you under surveillance, and including your genitalia in the bathrooms in the building where they're stalking. Okay, these demons are engaging in the pattern of conduct, and that's why you're asking a question in the engineer light under the fake sun while I'm documenting on video. These are psychopaths, stalkers, and it's domestic terrorism. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 10:36 a.m. This is Anthony, and this is a serial stalker, the people of the state who are monitoring with the military together. This is what you saw this morning under the fake sun while the entity was swarming around by helicopter, gang stalking me while I'm publishing evidence on the video of the internet. Anthony is going to prison, and you're looking at the entity that is gang stalking. So is Carissa, that's who's back there. And this is the criminal monitoring in concert with the people of the state. Going to the computer. Let me show you the strategy here with regard to demons that are monitoring my movements and my device. Going to the computer under the guise of I'm asking a question. This is the same psychopath that's engaging in harassment, speaking about black people as her audible activity under the fake sun, stalking and harassing in the bathroom, both in Upland Public Library and in Ontario Ovitt Family Community Library, and she is not asking a question. But regardless of her form, these are demons that are pacing in front position where you saw the impossible light activity this morning, where the entity is stalking by helicopter, where the entity is maintaining a fake sun over this venue, and these are acts of desperation by who are going to be committed. Her mental illness is shared with what is Carissa, and they would like you to think that they're different. They're not. And they're all vagina monitors. This is the P.O.C. Carissa's going to prison. Anthony's going to prison. You have the demons that are gang stalking. Alyssa's going to prison. Alan, all the rest of the employees are going to federal prison for gang stalking with the people of the state who come in here stalking all day long. That's all they're doing. This is the P.O.C., the C entity that's monitoring on the venue of the internet. You know why? Because May 23rd is preparing to be published, and stalking and terrorism is not the answer, and that's why the homosexuals of the U.S. military are going to be committed. That's why the homosexuals of the Upland Police Department, the gang stalking police departments in the state of California, they will suffer what are involuntary commitments. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 5:27 p.m. This is evidence of criminal obstruction of justice while you are already convicted for gang stalking me. P.O.C. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. This is Reliable Properties and Giant Value that's engaging in monitoring while I'm inside of the store and upon my exit. This is the entity that is engaged in that pattern of conduct. Also stalking inside of the Upland Public Library with Anthony and Carissa. This is what they were engaging in, stalking. This is mentally ill behavior. The entity is already convicted for stalking, for surveillance with the people who engage in this terrorism as a way of life. This is public corruption in the state. And this is the entity that was stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. I just want to be clear, this is the Giant Value dollar. He's gang stalking. He's also doing so inside of the store, okay? This is the entity that will be subject to deportation, where that applies. Massive deportation throughout the state. This is the entity that is stalking from city to city and targeting from venue to venue, and that's the prosecution not only of the government, not only of the people of the state who are in the shoes of the government, and all of the people of the state. This is the prosecution of the federal RICO case against facilitating venues such as Reliable Properties. and all of the businesses that are engaging in criminal surveillance in furtherance of murder. This is how gang stalking is accomplished while you're operating a business, and all of the employees and customers are gang stalking. Reliable Properties is maintaining a venue where surveillance is underway, as the government is showing, and you are sharing in that criminal pattern of conduct. That's why you have a fake sun over you, where you are headquartered in Los Angeles, California. Reliable Properties. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:10 p.m. That's the entity gang stalking at what is the Giant Varieties store, where the entity is engaged in this gang stalking with the entity stalking with commercial planes, and also under the fake sun right here, which is impossible. The fake sun is over me. Woodside Senior Apartments this morning, which is on the opposite side of this venue, and that is also the evidence of by the employees, by the customers, and by the property itself. Reliable Properties, all methods of identifying the people of the state who shall all be criminally prosecuted. This is P.O.C. These are demons, so this is psychopathic pacing. It's the same P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently 7:10 p.m. This is a mentally ill population that is now going to result in what is compensating for its act of terrorism, which is prosecuting it for levying war, and the mentally ill that are going to be put in mental facilities, and so are the people of the state. This is psychopathic pacing, and this is all psychopathic pacing, and they're all stalking together. Okay? This is the entity that then goes to the Ovid Family Community Library to stalk me and fly in circles. They're all stalking together, and they're all being prosecuted together. And Reliable Properties, this is your notice. You are being federally prosecuted for conspiring my murder and profiting from it. Okay? And the intent is the maintenance of the venue, the profiting that you are maintaining while criminal activity that you are sharing and enabling and facilitating is underway. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 7:11 p.m. Alrighty, the video evidence that I am publishing on the internet regarding a prosecution for what is a fact and what has never been, what is any basis to falsely depict the character of anyone, which under the Baker Act, these demons that are gang stalking via the medical profession that are in a position, by the way, to facilitate terrorism while you're looking at the U.S. government sharing that criminal means of targeting. The Baker Act is serving for what the military is doing by helicopter, and they are doing so while they are monitoring the evidence of one that has surefire evidence, and they're still engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct. And this is relevant to what is mental illness by this entity, in fact, and it is also mentally ill behavior while you are psychopathic. Exhibiting psychopathic disorders while you are in the medical field, as though you were in any position to even speak to, let alone diagnose mental illness of one that you are targeting by virtue of the Baker Act, where surveillance is underway in the state of California. What the U.S. military is doing in the middle of the parking lot at Reliable Properties under a fake sun is speaking to what is the basis to change state and federal laws, where the state of California is engaged in what is organized murder, organized kidnapping in order to steal, which is what this entity has committed. This is what Jason Fields, this is what the U.S. military, this is what Tracy Banks, this is what her co-defendant that is married, the lesbian that is, and the pedophile that's married to Jason Fields have conspired. This is what Eric Spencer have conspired, all those that perjured my character. While you're listening to the people of the state that are gang stalking, this is what they have conspired under the Baker Act. That's the purpose of the Baker Act, and it is speaking to the constitutional illegitimacy of any such Baker Act, where this criminal pattern of conduct is underway and thereby facilitated, enabled by the very same so-called medical professionals who are operating under that criminal act. That criminal act of legislation by the gang stalking government that's engaging in both this criminal activity and maintaining such legislation, which they are using in order to engage in criminal activity, which is also already proven by virtue of my evidence. The entity is engaging in this while they are engaging in what are false, because they're psychopathic, a false sense of retaliation. You're not engaging what is paying me back or getting even with me because you don't like what I publish on the podcast, and that because you're going to federal prison. That's also why you're being committed. You're not just going to prison, you're going to be committed to the homosexual that's obsessed with my vagina that's married to Jason Fields, the irrelevant psychopath that's engaging what is targeting me, the one that's engaging what is stalking with the demons over whom you are exercising witchcraft and having them engaging what is suicidal conduct and sacrificing themselves and their families. You are being committed, and so are the demons that are targeting with me while you are engaging in what is a matter of public corruption. The entities engaging in this at what is Euclid Avenue and G Street, where I'm present in the morning. I'm at Bethel Congregation at 10 o'clock in the morning. morning. I'm at St. George Catholic Church. I took a picture of the fake sun this morning at Woodside Senior Apartments in that parking lot during the 7 a.m. hour, and I'm showing you the fake sun while I'm in that parking lot of Reliable Properties, which is literally on the opposite side of what is the Tabor Professional Building. And when you look at a map, this is the same block, G Street to Euclid, and what is Vine Avenue. The entities engaged in this conduct while they are targeting what you're paying attention to. Jason Isaac Fields is who is being documented. There will be no reconciliation. This is a demon that's engaging in what is gang stalking and is in no position whatsoever as a terrorist, as a co-conspirator of murder, as one that remains a threat, and one, regardless of the fact that he has stopped sleeping with someone that is engaging in what is infecting him and his wife and everybody else that they are all sleeping with, are the threat to the public while they've been, and Jason Fields has been defaming my character. This is no one that is in any position to ever approach me, and if he does, he's going to prison. That's what this evidence is establishing. Jason Isaac Fields is in no custody of evidence or information, and this is a part of this documentation and this evidence because Jason Isaac Fields shall be subject to prison, which he is already subject to. You are going to prison, sir, if you ever come around me. There will never be any relationship. There will never be any reconciliation. You are in no position to unilaterally assert that you are anything other than the documented vagina monitor and co-conspirator of murder that you are documented as, including while your co-defendants, with whom you've engaged in what is years of sexual activity with in my name, to Satan, that has no authority, while you are still trying to get rid of the demons that control your mind, that have you thinking that we're ever going to have a conversation that's never going to happen. And I am prosecuting you through this evidence. Were you to ever come in my presence, it is a criminal act. You are being prosecuted. And you are going to be subject to what is more time in prison if you ever come in my presence. And that is by virtue of engaging in terrorism under any circumstances at any point in time. All right, the entities engaged in this, and that's relevant to what is documenting the terrorist Jason Isaac Fields. He is a part of this criminal activity that I remain subject to, and he is not on any other part of that criminal act. And this is an entity that's engaged in that. This is acts of terrorism by El Pescador, by the bungalows, by Mission Furniture. This is the intersection where I'm at, and Reliable Properties, which is encompassing what are multiple businesses. The Richardson Peterson, Woodside Senior Apartments, where the entity is stalking this entire same neighborhood, was stalking last night while the military followed me to Woodside Senior Apartments, where they engaged in what is stalking me, and that's the entity that is stalking while I come from Upland and the fake sun is over me at the same block. These are the demons that are gang stalking, okay? This is the P.O.C. I'm taking images of them stalking on the roads and the highways. These are demons that are obsessively, and this is not only obsessively stalking, they're the mentally ill that have failed and trying to murder someone and falsely depict their character when they're the roaming psychopaths and sex offenders. The entities engaging in this, and they are going to be subject to deportation. They're going to be subject to martial law. They're going to be subject to what is involuntary commitments, and that includes the demons whose name I know, okay? The nameless vagina monitor, this lesbian that has been engaged in what is trying to use calumny to steal my identity in concert with this this charlatan Tracy Banks, who's not even my biological mother. These are demons who are going to prison, who are going to be committed. It's speaking to a population, however, whose name I don't have to know. You know them. Their name is Satan. This is Satan that is fully exposed. And Satan's operation in California and under corrupt laws such as the Baker Act are going to be removed, repealed, federally prosecuted, deported, committed, and put in prisons across the country, okay? That's the P.O.C. It's an act of the entire population while the entity is stalking me at Reliable Properties. It is your criminal act, Reliable Properties, and you're going to compensate me for that. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 7:22 p.m. Alrighty, this is relevant to the prosecution. The entity that's going to be subject to raids is going to be subject to federal prison. The people of the state of what is North Euclid Avenue and West G Street, where the entire venue, this is a zone of relevant positioning, commercial and residential, and this is the entity that is subject to federal prison while I am subject to that act of terrorism, which all the people of the state are sharing it together. These are a whole bunch of gang members that are watching my social media as a means of prosecuting them, and again, that's because they are creatures, not humans. That is a reference to their mental illness. They're psychotic, they're violent sex offenders, they're child rapists, they're thieves, they're frauds, and they are hostile because they are demons who are envious and obsessed, and they're also very much aggressive toward me and engaging in violent acts of terrorism because I am exposing them. And they are inherently inferior while they maintain that status and condition and engage in criminal activity under all circumstances. The entities engaging in this, well, you want to be clear, the facilitating venue is North Euclid Avenue and West G Street, which encompasses many properties, many addresses at one time, which is going to be subject to what are raids, subject to federal prison, while the entity is engaging in the act itself while I'm at reliable properties, okay? When you're prosecuting with regard to everyone that is subject to federal prison, everyone at that facilitating venue, which is speaking to everyone in the zone of relevant positioning while I'm serially being targeted in this manner, this is that macro level of analysis that I'm providing through my evidence of the P.O.C. This is a population that's going to prison for it. All right. While the entities gang stalking me by helicopter, the people of the state were in the middle of the street, and rapidly a so-called collision, at least that's what it appears as, rapidly wrapped up, just like what Upland Police did yesterday. While I'm documenting Chevron, and as I walk up toward the venue and begin video, Upland Police immediately wrapped up that scene. This is the entity that's stalking in the path with light, monitoring together while these are demons that are not accomplishing anything. This is proof that they're not humans as well, because they are engaging in what is their impulse. They have to monitor. I have to pace. I have to flash with light because I'm hostile to the Holy Spirit that they know is around, exposing them and discerning them and exposing them to you. This is Satan that's engaging in that. They're monitoring spirits, and that's what they're engaging in, and it's criminal activity. Okay, they're all engaged in criminal conduct, and they're all exposed because they're engaged in criminal activity while they live in relevant position, while they work in relevant position, while they travel in relevant position, gang stalking and furtherance of murder. And that's the creatures who are surrounded by the laws that they can't even comprehend, and that's okay because they're going to be wrapped up as a city and as a state. This is the entity that's necessarily subject to martial law. These are animals, these are barbarians that are murdering, and they're mad because they're not secretly able to do it anymore. Okay, that includes the Ontario Police Department, who you will see in these images right here as I'm capturing, stalking, okay? Under the fake sun, the Ontario police that are stalking by helicopter and then approaching me at the Ontario Ovid Library. As an entity, that is, again, creatures that are wearing police uniforms that I am stripping them of. They're not wearing badges and guns anymore. They're not operating a police department. Lopez, Lorenz, and Williams are all going to prison. And this department that's engaged in stalking, not law enforcement, is being disbanded. And they are all being removed from positions as terrorists. They're not getting pay, in other words, and they don't have any immunity under the law. While this entity has engaged in what is abusing the Baker Act, which is how the states are engaging in what is this act of terrorism and treason. The United States government targets American citizens in concert with those outside of the U.S., including for profit. And this is what is relevant to demons like Jason Fields abusing positions in the military, doing so while some Jezebel with HIV that he has married, that he's engaged in sex rituals with, is, again, abusing access to the military, to law enforcement agencies that are demons engaging in this conduct. And these are gang members, okay? This is under the law terrorism. And that's what's relevant behind the entity stalking, very plain view by helicopter. Lopez of the Ontario Police is going to prison. He's the gang leader over the Ontario Police Department. So you have, what is that, P.O.C. And then you're getting to what are they doing and up and it's very clear, okay? This is about the entity that's obsessed with me, the one that's already prosecuted them, that's engaging that in the face of evidence. You're going beyond what is a conviction, you're getting to a diagnosis. While you abuse the Baker Act regarding what is not mental illness, while you torture and stalk people, you are thereby being diagnosed and put in facilities where psychopaths and serial killers and pedophiles like that belong, because that is entirely deranged to engage in it and for a whole population to engage in it. Okay, the entities engage in what is merely stalking me now in an obvious manner, admitting that you were guilty from the beginning, forgetting about all the lies that you told, which is speaking of more consequences for you, because in fact you are psychotic. This is the P.O.C. I wanted to remind you about that. That's a facilitating venue of North Euclid Avenue and West G Street. P.O.C. P.O.C. You'll see the images that I took of the entity that is stalking. You can hear the helicopter. This is where the military has been repeatedly stalking by planes. And the city of Ontario is sitting around stalking me at the Civic Center by criminal summoning, while I publish the videos onto the venue of the internet, where they're always engaging what is criminal monitoring. This is the P.O.C. stalking over the Ovid Family Community Library, which is a crime scene. That's speaking to the employees of the Ovid Family Community Library. They're all going to prison. They've been engaged in gang stalking, and that's what was happening. Remember, March 3rd, 2026. C. Gerber is giving me a letter from the city of Ontario that is gang stalking at that same library and engaging in the absurdity of that criminal activity because I'm publishing evidence that it is criminally keeping under surveillance. And remember, my evidence is to prosecute for conspiring my murder. And this is what an entity is doing in Upland, California this morning, which you saw. The entity is stalking, flying over the city hall in Upland, flying over the library in Upland, flying over and the parking lot over in circles by helicopter. And the entity engaging with a stalking by flying by helicopter while I am on the video of the internet publishing May 23rd, 2026 video evidence. This is the entity that's engaged in that ongoing pattern, showing what is targeting. The Ontario police are the demons that are stalking with sirens, and the people of the state are exhibiting mental instability they're pacing while they are monitoring together, okay? That's the P.O.C. This is the entity that is under no circumstances in any position to exercise any authority under the Baker Act. The Baker Act is showing the criminal system that California is engaging in, and I want to be clear, Governor Newsom is responsible for the criminal activity that is underway by the state, by the U.S. government, that utilizes the Baker Act to engage in what is kidnapping. Righty, it is the P.O.C. And this is, I want to be clear, the evidence of the instability of those that are utilizing the Baker Act as a means of kidnapping and criminally defaming American citizens. Remember, those medical professionals that are using the Baker Act to defame your character, while the entity manufactures the fact that you are mentally ill. This is the evidence that the medical professionals are using to defame your character. And you are speaking to this conduct in the absence of video documentation, in the absence of evidence proving it. And this is what the entity uses under the Baker Act to defame your character and state that you are hallucinating, that you're bipolar, that you're paranoid. And they are very much engaged in a system that is designed to defame your character under the Baker Act. That which those medical professionals are sharing in, and this is the entity that's engaging that on the street. This is the entity that is gang stalking while you're looking at what is the basis to remove the Baker Act from existence, to repeal that unconstitutional criminal act by the government that's engaging in this pattern of conduct. This is the entity that's engaging in what is theft and kidnapping and criminal defamation. Criminal defamation is the entity that's engaging in what is stalking you and then states that you are mentally ill while you are asserting that you are under by any means being targeted. This is the Ontario police that are engaging in the pattern of conduct. Okay? That's the P.O.C. Those are the ones that are being disbanded. Alrighty, that's the entity that's engaged in this, and the evidence is being published online, and this is the entity that's sharing in that ongoing pattern while I am again publishing evidence. This is relevant to the ongoing surveillance on the venue of the internet. This is what the mentally ill engage in. This is the basis to repeal the Baker Act. The Baker Act is a criminal act engaged in by the government, and the government's role is to gang stalk you in concert with the population. In other words, engage in that which is unprecedented, that which is never heard of before, and that which the demons thought would never be capable of being proven. And then they are using criminal acts like the Baker Act to kidnap you and defame you so that people such as Tracy Banks can engage in theft in concert with the government. All right, that's why you have what is a population and a government that is engaged in this, and they're doing so very boldly. All right, that's the P.O.C. This is the entity, this is the basis for involuntary commitments. The government that's engaging in what is utilizing corrupt means of legislation is the entity that's going to be involuntarily committed, that is in fact mentally ill, and that is in no position to engage in what is any means of us addressing or even mentioning, addressing the character of the one who is in fact being targeted in this manner. And this is what the government is doing. This is what the state of California is doing. And Gavin Newsom's ongoing advocacy regarding mental health court is a criminal system that he is championing, and it's pursuant to what is public corruption. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:05 p.m. and the entity is engaging in this while you're looking at this evidence that's being published online. And it's going online. I have hundreds of the entity doing the exact same thing on an ongoing basis. Remember what Anthony Rodriguez is doing? He's going to be put in federal prison. This is the criminal system he's engaging in on July 13th. And him and Hadel Shiapani, who committed kidnapping at this very same Ovid Family Community Library, they're both going to federal prison. This is that system where you are engaged in criminal activity as a department, like they are in this video, engaging in criminal summoning, surrounding with light activity, while they're monitoring my device, pursuant to an investigation that they don't have any authority to interfere with or obstruct. They're doing so while they are engaging in criminal activity against me, okay? This is the entity that's engaged in this, and this was the failure. You will never engage in what is actually the practice of medicine while you are stalking me and trying to defame my character as you're stalking me. I just want to be clear, those medical professionals that defame my character and stating that I'm a patient of yours, that I'm under any circumstances mentally ill, you signed your name off and you stated that you observed this and you diagnosed that and you opine this and you suggest that, and you are going to federal prison for this very criminal activity, which you are sharing in, which is what is the state of California's P.O.C. under the Baker Act. So this is speaking to what are the laws whereby this system of public corruption is existing, which is led by the government that is engaging in this gang stalking system. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:07 p.m. This is Title 18 federal stalking with the intent to obstruct justice. In other words, while I am publishing the evidence on the internet with simultaneity, this is what the entity began doing. This is what they were doing at the Upland Public Library this morning. This is what they were doing while it's inside of the Upland Public Library. And the entity was targeting me at the Reliable Properties Shopping Plaza, doing so in concert with the people of the state. This is the Ontario Civic Center, University College of Laverne. They're being prosecuted. Paul Leon, the Ontario Civic Center, the Senior Center, John Stewart Company, Ovid Family Community Library, Saris Regis Group, Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, the Ontario Town Square, which is the City of Ontario, Wells Fargo, where the Ontario Police and the people are pacing all around monitoring together, the Metro 102 Apartments, the Ontario Town Square Townhomes. This is the entity that's in relevant positioning, engaged in what is gang stalking together, and they're all being prosecuted. And this is the entity that is doing so as a means of what is public corruption. The coexisting population that's engaged in that as though nothing is happening, these are the demons that are sharing in that system. And this is the psychopathic disorder that they are actually suffering from, while they are, in other words, using the Baker Act to defame the one that they're targeting and doing so as though nothing is happening. This is it is a public nuisance because they act like it's not. That is not creating the reality. They are going to be subject to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is under the fake moon as well. Those are demons that give birth to demons. They're gang stalking together. You're looking at what are corrupt demons that are engaging in that. And unfortunately, they procreate. These are terrorists in the engineer light, pushing a stroller, gang stalking with a terrorist in a helicopter. That's coupling what are the terrorists who are a threat to national security. This is P.O.C. That's the sick behavior of the people of the state. There's nothing normal about that, and they're literally engaging in that, acting like nothing is happening. That's what's getting committed. That's the P.O.C. It is currently, again, 11:09 p.m. They're monitoring while they're engaging in that, pushing a stroller. They're gang stalking. P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, while the evidence is being published online, 11:09 p.m. This evidence is published right now. This is what the Ontario Police are criminally keeping under surveillance. This is the entity that's engaging what is monitoring as I publish the podcast, as I publish the video documentation, and this is the entity that's also engaged in what is ongoing psychotic behavior. Stalking me in a helicopter is not stopping me from publishing the evidence online. It's not going to stop an investigation. An entity that is mentally ill is engaging in these desperate tactics. It's speaking to what is the operation of a system that is facilitated via the Baker Act, where you are not engaged in the practice of law. It is facilitating what is corruption in the state. And this is speaking to what is the unconstitutional and illegitimate means of what is theft of American citizens and kidnapping and defaming their character, okay? That's not the practice of medicine. It's not the diagnosis of any mental illness. In fact, it is exposing the mental illness of those that are gang stalking. That's what the U.S. military is engaging in. That's why they have that legislation. It is a means of targeting, and that's what this entity engaged in. While they sought to seek a conservatorship and a power of attorney, I just want to be clear. Jason Isaac Fields, they engaged in defaming my character. They engaged in what is lying, stating that I'm a prostitute, stating that they've engaged in contracting HIV from me. They've engaged in infecting each other with HIV. They've engaged in what is pedophilia with children. They committed murder. They've engaged in multiple acts of attempted murder against myself, poisoning my body at night while they're stalking me in this manner, engaging in what is defaming my character and claiming that I'm mentally ill, claiming that I'm a criminal, even while they are targeting and stalking in this manner. And this is what the entity relies on under the Baker Act to engage in what is theft of my money and property. It's no coincidence that I am a wealthy woman and the entity is stalking in this manner while they have defamed my character, while they're keeping the evidence to prosecute them under surveillance. You are not engaging in anything that's going to result in what is a conservatorship or a power of attorney. And this is serving for what is repealing that unconstitutional criminal act, which is the Baker Act. It's criminal. It's serving criminal activity. And this is showing the criminal that is the state of California and the U.S. government. And this is how the U.S. government is engaged in terrorism. You will never engage in what is actually successfully claiming that someone is mentally ill when you are stalking. But that's what the government is engaging in, and the government is doing it with the people of the state. The government's doing it with the people of the state. This is a psychopath, this is a demon, and this is a stalker. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that in the middle of the night. You know how late it is? Look at the time. It's 11:11. The Ontario police are relying on this population to engage in that pattern of conduct, and this is exactly what's also going to be deported out of this country. That's the P.O.C. It is currently 11:11 p.m. That's the entity that's engaging in what is stalking and has been the entire time. Jason Isaac Fields' wife, who's been engaged in trying to steal my identity in concert with Tracy Banks, who's not even my biological mother, in concert with Jason Isaac Fields and Eric Corey Spencer, the entity that's been engaged in what is stealing my identity, committing criminal activity in concert with the people of the state, the demons that are monitoring me, the demons that are stealing my money, the demons that are being compensated for targeting, the demons that are abusing the laws as they exist to engage in that criminal system. Those are the demons that are being involuntarily committed and federally prosecuted and put in prison. That's the P.O.C. and that's the reality. You will never get a conservatorship or a power of attorney based on your criminal conduct and your mental illness because you want to be me. I hope that you're prepared because you are going to sit in a mental institution and you know exactly who you are. You are the one that has been screaming my names from the rooftops, been irrelevant the entire time while this entire case is putting you, you're bat poo crazy, and you're going to sit in an institution. Because you lied on my character for so long, because you've been stealing from me for so long, because you so desperately engaged in making up fictions while you've been engaged in this system as an entity. All the lies are speaking to how guilty you are, and you are going to sit in an institution. You're going to sit in a mental institution. That helicopter activity is the evidence that's going to put you there. And every lying medical professional, where you sat in court acting like you were me, acting like you know my name and my birthday and that you are me. You are not. That this evidence that I'm creating is yours. It is not. You are going to sit in a mental institution while you've been targeting me with the U.S. military, with the police departments in California that are stalking me in helicopters, and you are going to federal prison. You're going to be committed, and so are they. This is the P.O.C. This is a plan fail. You're listening to the entity that has sacrificed itself. They're all going to prison, all of them, including the people of the state that engage in that stalking and with strollers and holding hands and laughing and sitting on the bench in the dark while they're monitoring me obsessively, and they're monitoring their own downfall and their demise. This is the P.O.C. This is the entity. This is what they were documenting. This is what they were monitoring. And I'm going to continue so you can see. I'm going to continue to publish the evidence onto the venue of the internet, which the entity is keeping under surveillance. This is the entity's ongoing criminal system of federal stalking, and it is speaking to what is the invalid application of what is the Baker Act. And the Baker Act is not only is it invalid, it is not the product of the practice of medicine. These are speaking to circumstances that the government that is engaged in criminal surveillance is manipulating. And on that basis, it is entirely invalid, while the entity is engaging in this against me and has done so in order to accomplish stealing from me. All right, while seeking to steal my identity. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:15 p.m. Jason Isaac Fields is going to prison. That's where he's going. P.O.C. It is currently the video that you just listened to. The entity started sounding sirens and started circling around me by helicopter at the east end of the Ovid Family Community Library at the moment that I began uploading the video. And this is the documented pattern while the entity starts stalking me by helicopter and or criminal summoning as I begin publishing evidence that the entity is keeping under surveillance, keeping me under surveillance, and keeping my devices, my evidence, my intellectual property under surveillance. Remember, this is relevant to intellectual property that this government has also claimed that it is theirs, and by any of the people of the state. Tracy Banks claiming, Jason Isaac Fields claiming that my evidence is his or theirs, or any of the people of the state, these gang stalkers on the YouTube platform where surveillance is underway, asserting, using my evidence my intellectual property and asserting that it is theirs, copying off of my intellectual property. The entity that is engaged in what is defaming my character, acting like you are me, stealing my identity and asserting that my property, my company, the P.O.C., the pattern of conduct is their property, that they have any right to it under the Baker Act while you are stalking. This is the government that's engaged in stealing this intellectual property that it's keeping under surveillance, which is proven through this video of the entity stalking me. As you heard by sirens, you see Ontario police stalking in the path on what is Plum. Doing so while they are flying in circles over my head, and the demons of the Ontario police are also engaging in what Anthony Anthony Rodriguez is exhibiting mental instability while you're acting like you're a police officer at Stater Brothers, okay? That's why he's going to prison. They're all stalking and monitoring, and they're engaging in this with regard to what is a failed plot. The entity first asserted that I am dead, and I am not dead. And so the entity sought to gang stalk me in order to maintain this lie that I am dead, which the government is a part of that lie. The government that you see stalking me by the Ontario Police, by the Upland Police in the city of Ontario, in the city of Upland, with helicopters and with airplanes, under a fake sun, speaking to massive surveillance by people, an entity that knows very well that I never died and has been engaged in gang stalking while they cashed in insurance policies under my name and entered into courtrooms lying about their identity, into courtrooms where that government and that courtroom, the judges knew that it was not me. The government's engaging in this pattern of conduct while they are abusing legislation such as what the Baker Act is, which is enabling a government to kidnap you, defame your character, and systematically steal from you, siphon from you financially. And you also know that these are demons that are monitoring spiritually. The entities engaging in this while they are engaging what is identifying who is the one that stole my intellectual property. It's this government that's stalking. Who is the one that's stealing my identity? It's this government that's stalking. Who is the one that claimed that I was dead and cashed in insurance policies? It's this government that is stalking. And the entity started sounding helicopter activity, flying directly over me where the fake moon is located, like they were doing at the Upland Public Library under the fake sun, like they were doing at the inside of the Upland Public Library, where I am also, again, publishing evidence, as I spoke to in this video, as I'm documenting routinely. This is the entity that's engaging in that, and they're doing so with the people of the state who also know who I am and also know that I'm not dead and engaged in gang stalking, because gang stalking is reasonably calculated to result in your death, if not suicide. The entity engages in what is murder and then claiming that you committed suicide, which is supposed to retroactively make legitimate the lies that people like Jason Fields, Tracy Banks, Jason Fields' spouse, the entity that's engaged in the government itself, these so-called medical professionals that have all engaged in what is under the Baker Act, maintaining criminal acts in a court that is targeting. This government that's stalking by helicopter is the government that's stalking, maintaining court hearings under that criminal act, which is referred to as the Baker Act. This is enabling a government that is engaged in what is conspiring against your life. Okay? Conspiring your murder, conspiring kidnapping. And while I'm documenting and prosecuting it, the entity engages in more criminal activity proving that that is the case. Okay, this is the entity, the government that's engaging in that is the government that's responsible for theft of all of my intellectual property, claiming that the P.O.C is yours, that you created it, that you even know what it is, that you even know what it means, that you even understand it to explain it. Okay, while you look nothing like me, while you have none of the background and educational skill set that I maintain, while you've lived in none of the places that I've ever lived, you are nothing like me and I don't even know you. And you are able to do so because you are engaging in surveillance as the government that maintains this system of surveillance. And that is what is relevant to the entity stalking. So I just want to be clear, it is currently 11:22 p.m. The entity is monitoring while the evidence is being published, and the people of the state are engaged in psychopathic pacing, like they are inside of the Upland Public Library all day long under the fake sun. They're gang stalking at the Ontario Civic Center, pacing back and forth, stalking in the path as you see that demon sitting in the dark on the bench while the entity is flying in circles by helicopter. While the entity is strolling past as a gang stalking, demon-possessed, mentally ill, and corrupt family of demons, stalking as though nothing is happening. It's the evidence of the mentally ill who conspire murder under the Baker Act and with the government together. That's the entity that's engaging in what is gang stalking. Gang stalking is not based on your facial expression. It's not based on how you are present, whether you're wearing a hard hat and you're drilling in the ground, or whether you're pushing a stroller with your family, engaging in the environment with the entity that's maintaining that pattern of conduct together. That's how gang stalking is underway. And gang stalking is an intentional and malicious criminal system where the entity is engaging in what is as you see, the failed form. It doesn't even look normal while you're pushing your stroller, acting like nothing is happening, smiling and cheesing like nothing is happening, and no one is convinced that nothing is happening. And in fact, the entity is also very aware of the population that behaves like that, the population of demons who are stalking under things like a fake sun and a fake moon, with psychopaths who are demon-possessed, the homosexuals of the U.S. military who are engaged in terrorism, not protecting American citizens. That is what is relevant to what is removing the Baker Act from existence. The Baker Act is a criminal act committed by the U.S. government, the state of California, that's engaged in criminal surveillance. surveillance, and it is a basis to target American citizens. And it is not the product of the actual practice of medicine, the actual diagnosis of mental illness, especially because the entity is, number one, engaging in surveillance, number two, engaging in what is obstruction of justice while its criminal surveillance is being proven through this documentation, which is what you're listening to, Stalking by Helicopter, and number three, while it is engaged in what is making up information, defaming my character while you are under the Baker Act, and by virtue of engaging in that, you're lying. And you're lying because you're not engaged in the practice of medicine. The Baker Act is a license to engage in targeting pursuant to surveillance, which is what the medical profession is engaging in, which is what the legal profession is engaging in, which is what law enforcement, what the U.S. military is engaged in, what the population that gang stalks you, pushing strollers in the middle of the night, laughing and coking and joking like nothing is going on. That's the entity that's engaging in the P.O.C. Okay? That is a population that is actually exposing its own mental instability, which is the ability to categorically assess that as a population of the mentally ill. Okay? Those that share in murdering one person together as a system of sacrificing, stealing, and then sharing the dividends of what it is that you have procured through that criminal system. And the entity is doing this internationally. So nonetheless, it is currently 11:25 p.m. That's the government that's engaged in that. You hear that helicopter activity. The entity is, I captured that video. That video is over 15 minutes long. And the entity is stalking by the Ontario police. This is directly relevant to who I already stated before. You're claiming you have a warrant pursuant to stalking by Hazelwood and Owens in 2025 and 2026 in February, where that demon is stalking with, like, he's going to be, now he's not only going to prison, he's being committed. And then you have what are the stalkers of the Ontario police who are stalking in this video, monitoring with this entity and engaging in that while they are demons under the fake sun, engaging in surveillance, not law enforcement, and asserting warrants pursuant to criminal activity, this criminal activity, while you are conspiring my murder, and doing so while you are monitoring evidence on the internet, and you engage in criminal summoning with this population. And that's the basis where you're engaging what is asserting a warrant pursuant to the kidnappings, stalking, in other words, by Craig Hazelwood and Owens in 2025 and 2026. This is an entity, he's going to prison, in other words. That's what I'm addressing. The clowns that are the Ontario police who are in this video that I document, that you just listened to and that you can see as it's published on the website. And in this podcast that you're listening to, they're stalking in the path, demons that are monitoring while they are together. Monitoring is pursuant to criminal activity, but you understand that these are monitoring spirits and they're mentally ill. They're engaging in what is manifesting their obsession with me while they are stalking in my path with light, stalking in my path by psychopathic pacing, which they're doing in concert with the people of the state, who are, again, mentally ill, and they are engaging in what is an unintelligent system, and they don't have any other way. They don't know how else to do it, and there's no other way that they can do it. So they plaster smiles on their face, and they engage in what is stalking you conspicuously, because there's no other way to engage in what is their obsessive need to be around you in order to gang stalk you. So they push a stroller, and they maintain a smile. They sit in the dark. And they engage in what is walking dogs while they are gang stalking in the very obvious manner which the U.S. military provides, psychopathic pacing by helicopter. Okay, that's the P.O.C. This is the entity that is very much aware of, under the Baker Act, the criminal act that is the government, the venue of the Upland Public Library. All of its employees are going to prison. All of the employees of Ovid Family Community Library are going to prison. This is an entity that's engaged in kidnapping multiple times the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments at Economy. And all of the evidence, in other words, that I have, including Tracy Banks, some demon that thinks that she's some sort of like coach, some sort of gang stalking organizer, teaching some underage whore, okay, that's HIV infected, and lying, stating that she is me, and stating that I'm the one that's engaged in the serial killings that she's committed, having sex, literally her genitalia is poison. And while she goes around as a psychopath having sex with people and infecting them with STDs and then claiming that it is me, that is the entity that is gang stalking under my identity with the entity that is stalking me by helicopter. That is not an accidental coincidence where I happen to be a wealthy woman. That's the product of what is the public corruption of the U.S. government that maintains laws that are unconstitutional, that are facilitating surveillance and theft of American citizens that are kept under surveillance and stolen from, while you are kidnapped under the Baker Act, while you are murdered under the Baker Act. This is the P.O.C. It's psychopathic pacing that you're listening to at 11:28 p.m. I am finished publishing. I'm going to go ahead and capture that. The entity that's engaged in psychopathic pacing is monitoring the evidence published today, the evidence that's being uploaded while the entity is engaged in federal stalking, which is going to be prosecuted for. All the companies that I'm documenting that are sharing in this criminal pattern of conduct, you are all being prosecuted together with the government. You are the government. You're not private properties. You're not engaged in any private activity, and you do not have any sort of legitimacy. You're being prosecuted under federal RICO. You're being prosecuted as treasonous co-conspirators of murder while the entity engages in this, and you are stalking in the path. You are stalking by virtue of the establishment. You are stalking by virtue of any and all of your employees. You are stalking by virtue of the environment where that establishment and your employees and any customers, that is residents, and the people of the state are under any circumstances engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring with the entity that just engaged in over about 30 minutes of what is stalking conspicuously by helicopter. You are being prosecuted for it. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and they're doing so together. That's the prosecution, again, of the City of Ontario, the Ontario Senior Centre, the Ontario Town Square, the Ontario City Hall, University of Laverne College of Law, the people of the state that are gang stalking in relevant position, the housing community, the entire City of Ontario, in other words. But this venue, the Ontario Civic Centre, is surrounded by housing. And it includes MIG Real Estate. You're being prosecuted. GL Partners. You're being prosecuted. The John Stewart Company. You're being prosecuted. Saris Regis Group. You are being prosecuted. The entity that's engaged in this pattern of conduct as the people of the state. As you see them stalking in the park, the population is being prosecuted. As you see them pushing their strollers and pushing a baby, gang stalking with the government under any circumstances, facilitating it as an entity, not as individuals. The entire population is being prosecuted, and that is not based on business hours, because this is what the employees of all of these aforesaid venues are engaging in during the day, which is also surrounded with evidence, tangible evidence, and you are all being federally prosecuted while the entity has a psychological breakdown as I capture it on podcast and by video. And this is what has been the case for years, while you have those that the government is gang stalking me with, going around infecting everyone with HIV as they maintain sex rituals together, targeting me, and then claiming that I'm the one that infected them with HIV. They are all being committed, and they're going to federal prison, and it is legally relevant that they be tested for HIV, because those are the co-conspirators that are lying about my character while gang stalking me in very specific, detailed lies that are relevant to their guilt, okay? The entity is engaged in what is monitoring my vagina, putting me on the internet, trafficking me, while you are a stranger to me, but I am no stranger. Neither is my vagina a stranger to you, while you keep my device under surveillance. And the entity's doing this under what is the criminal act of what is the Baker Act. That's a criminal act committed by the government, and it is to be removed, repealed. It is entirely unconstitutional. The entities engage in this in order for the people of the state, the government, the U.S. military, the state, any of the states, to engage in criminal activity literally through the law. Okay? And because it is made a law does not make it a just law. It does not make it a constitutional law. And it is being removed as I am showing what the government is doing to American citizens, which it has no right to do. And it is doing it with the criminals who are making up the medical field and the legal profession and what is law enforcement, as you are witnessing the Ontario Police gang stalking. And that entire department is being disbanded. They are all losing their jobs as terrorists, and every one of them, including Hazelwood and Owens and Anthony Rodriguez, Hadel Shiapani, etc. Every single last one that I document, engaging in kidnapping me, who are engaging in that, and the evidence will show, and my evidence is supplemental to other evidence. Every single last one of them are going to prison, and the entity stalking for approximately 30 minutes by helicopter is conclusive evidence. This in and of itself is conclusive evidence to shut down the Ontario Police Department. This is how desperate the entity is, however. The videos that the entity is monitoring, it's currently 11:32 p.m. where the entity abandoned stalking me by helicopter. That's the basis of recovery from all of the people of the state. I'm going to prosecute you, John Stewart Company, for psychological torture. I'm going to prosecute you for co-conspiring in my murder. I'm going to prosecute you for compensating your employees for sharing in that criminal activity, which you are sharing in. And you maintain an obligation, by the way, under the law to make sure that your establishment, that your employees, that your consumers who are your residents are not enabling you to profit from the criminal activity, from the conspiracy to murder, as the government is doing in concert with you, while your venue is providing what is a population to keep me under surveillance, which you are responsible for by virtue of profiting from it. And you are not ignorantly engaging in this pattern of conduct in the same way that demons that are sitting around smiling and sitting around while the entity is talking by helicopter are engaging in what are waging false allegations, while at the same time acting like you're a stranger to me and you don't know who I am and you're not targeting, while you are being federally prosecuted. It is the pattern of conduct. Okay, this is the P.O.C. and you are the establishment itself, the business itself, the corporate entity is criminally liable, and you are also civilly liable for what is psychological torture, which I just documented you engaging in with the government. The government cannot do it without you, and you are going to be federally prosecuted for it, and there is no legitimate or constitutional defense for providing that means for the government to do so. And you are doing so while the population, any aspect of that population, like what I have evidence of in this video and in this podcast, the people of the state gang stalking. Okay, you're in a relevant position, you're being prosecuted. That is the case against you. It is currently 11:34 p.m. This is the entity that's in doing so, and this is the Ontario Police that are sharing, and that I want to be clear. The Ontario Police are doing so with the people of the state. The Ontario Police are representing what all of the law enforcement agencies in California are doing. It's the prosecution of the entire state. All right, and this is the P.O.C. The entity is doing so pursuant to federal stalking on the internet on my device without any warrant, probable cause, legitimate interest, and under what is the criminal purposes of the Baker Act, which shall be removed as a means of, as a matter of justice and what is necessary in order to protect the lives, the privacy, the liberty rights, the human rights of American citizens who have a right to not be kept under surveillance and then defamed, kidnapped, and murdered by the government that is utilizing the Baker Act, and those that are a part of this entity, this gang stalking, this terrorism, that are in the medical field and in law enforcement and in the legal profession. And the entity that is stalking me in this manner is directly speaking to the necessity of removing the Baker Act from existence. This is P.O.C. By the way, like I stated, Jason Isaac Fields is never coming around me. This is someone who was going to federal prison by virtue of this evidence. And I am absolutely sure, and this is a matter of precedent, where you are engaging in what Jason Isaac Fields has done under any circumstances at any point in time. If you are violating what is a clear basis of what is a boundary, which is law to him, if you violated Jason Fields, you're going to prison. This is P.O.C. It's 11:35 p.m.